Okay, now in this video I want to discuss how we cut the 4 rear pieces for the rocker. Lower stretcher, mid rail, and the 2 upper rails, which are considerably thicker. Now what's really critical in this operation is that the shoulder to shoulder distance is the same on every piece. If one of these is shorter or longer, it's going to throw the whole chair off. So the best way to ensure that's going to happen is to cut all 4 pieces and setup pieces to length at the exact same time and execute the joinery for all of them at the exact same time. So that's what we're going to do in this video. Now I started out by milling up all my parts, and as I said, cut to length at the same time. I've got a lower stretcher, apron, and 3 upper parts because I had the stock and that's the one that's most likely to get screwed up, so I went ahead and ran an extra piece. So now I have my stock ready to go and we're going to start tenoning. Okay, I want to take a moment or two and talk about the strategy that we're going to pursue here. It's going to be 2 cuts. The first will be the shoulder cut, the second will be the cheek. Now blade selection is very important here. So I'm using an alternate tooth bevel blade, which gives you basically a saw curve shaped like a V. And when I make that first cut, I want to come in just a tad further than my finished tenon thickness. In this case, it's 3/8 of an inch. So when I make that cut, I'm coming in a tad further than necessary. The idea behind that is that when I make the second cut, what will happen is I'll cut it to the right thickness and just have a little bit of score lines here. Nothing that's structurally compromising, but setting this just right eliminates a lot of handwork, having to clean off debris that's stuck in the corner. And with as many joints as this chair has, that could be a substantial amount of time. So properly picking your cuts, setting the depth is critical. Okay, this is my basic setup. I've got a 50 tooth general purpose blade in here with an alternate tooth bevel. I'm going to set to the outside of the blade to 1 1/8 because that's the length of my tenon. I've got a miter gauge with an auxiliary fence, and I cannot stress the importance of the auxiliary fence to support the cut. So this is my basic setup, and on a test piece I'm going to get started. I've gone ahead and made 2 sample cuts in my test piece. It took a few tries raising it, but I've got it to where I'm about 3/8 of an inch, a little bit less than 3/8 of an inch on the bottom side of the V cut. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut all of my 7/8 stock. Now the upper rails are considerably thicker, and it's going to involve 2 unequal cuts. From looking at my mock-up, I determined that first cut needed to be 3/8 of an inch. So that's what I did on my various pieces. Now I need to set up for the second cut. And keep in mind, for all of this, I've never once moved the fence. I had the original setting and I've been cutting to it consistently. Having found my proper 3/8 spacing, I went ahead and cut all of my pieces. So that wraps up all of the shoulder cuts. Next we'll do the cheat cuts, and we'll use a tenoning jig for that. Okay, this is the Powermatic tenoning jig. It has a couple adjustments you should be aware of. If you loosen this knob and then dial this, it's a micro adjust, letting you move it just a little bit at a time. Once you find your setting, you lock it back down again. Sometimes you have to loosen this one as well for major adjustments, but the gist of it is loosen, micro adjust, and lock. So now I'm going to try a sample cut. Slide it back, flip it. All right, having made our cut, let's check it out. Now, we've gotten incredibly lucky here in that that's what we want. It's nice and tight. If I was to force it in, I'd probably run the risk of splitting the leg. But you always want it tight, and then you can hand fit it with a little sandpaper. And odds are, by tomorrow, this would shrink up a little bit and be a much better fit. So that is what we're going for. Nice and tight. You can hear it squeaking. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all the other 7/8 pieces. Okay, we have an odd scenario here. With the jig all the way back, because this is so massive, I can't get it over far enough where I can make this cut. I could flip it around this way and move it up to where I was doing it like that, but that piece would then be caught when I make the cut, and that would be pretty hazardous. So to remedy this, I'm going to make a quick relief cut and take that out on the various pieces. Having made that relief cut on the bandsaw, I can now make this shoulder cut without worrying about anything kicking back at me. After a few adjustments, I reset it for the other side. And there, once again, we have a good fit. It's tight, we'll be able to hand pare it down, and should get a nice secure joint. In any case, that's the sequence for doing the various tenons for this. Now on the bandsaw, we'll have to do a little notching to fit these in, but that should be pretty straightforward. So anyways, there's the process for cutting the tenons for the rear of the chair.